The big hook that we have is that we guarantee a 10% powder savings. I think our minimum is 16% for any of our clients.
All right. Welcome back, guys, to the Right Now Powder Coating channel. Today, we've got another interview for you. This is CoatingAI. So I'm here with Link Brown and Marlon. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys kind of explain. I know AI is a word that is popping up like crazy right now. So there is no better time to discuss how AI impacts powder coating, I think. So Link and Marlon, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Let our viewers know what you do with CoatingAI. And then whichever one of you wants to kind of explain the company in general, we can have you do that too.
Cool. Marlon, you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Marlon, one of the founders of CoatingAI. We've started a company about 3 years ago, which I came up with that idea. I used to work in research in the field of applied physics, where we did some research in the field of powder coatings, creating simulation models and so on, which introduced me to the industry. I saw there's still some room to improve processes, control them better. That's how we came up with the idea to start this company.
My name is Link Brown, originally from the US, but live now in Switzerland. Chemical engineer by degree, actually started in the adhesive coating industry. I'm now the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer for CoatingAI, and really helping drive our go-to-market strategy. A lot of our focus is in the US and in North America, but we have projects globally as well. And so that's my role. You're asking what is CoatingAI. So I guess our mission overall is to bring automation and optimization to the powder coating industry using AI. I kind of always like to explain it differently. It's really about bringing science to what many people have used as an art for such a long time in the industry. And right now we have lots of projects going on, but one of the big ones is our Blueprint OS, where we really have created a full system to help any automated powder coater be able to really optimize their coating process so that they get not just powder savings, but better quality and just better results, better uptime overall.
So I would say your main customer then would be an automated system with auto guns, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, anybody with, doesn't matter what type of system they have, whether it's vertical or horizontal, or whether it's an older or newer system, as long as it's automated, they pretty much can be a customer of ours.
Nice. So let's talk about, because I know I was finding information on you guys on LinkedIn over a year ago, I believe. And AI, I feel like as I'm aging a little bit, the technology aspect, I'm becoming my parents. You know, when they first got a cell phone and they didn't know how to do anything with it, they were asking me questions. So then I see this CoatingAI and I'm like, man, that's over my pay grade in the powder coating world. But now that I'm working with electronic, we're actually installing these automatic systems. I was like, man, I got to reach out to these guys and figure out exactly what the process looks like, what they do, and how they could potentially save like the customers I'm working with on their powder. So can you explain, let's say XYZ company calls you guys up and they want to know more about your product and how it works, and then how you guys would go into one of those places and implement it or show them the results.
Maybe to quickly use that, as you said, with the all AI hype, we started a company a bit before everyone was talking about AI. Right now, it's a bit a difficult point. Do we want to ride that wave or not? Because people right now are referring to AI basically for the ChatGPTs.
Right.
We are not a ChatGPT.
Right.
Our AI is not a language model. It's basically a physics model. Our AI is basically trained to understand the physics of the powder coating process and through that optimize it. The science part, maybe over to you, Link.
So if we look at process, if a company were to call us or we talk to a company, we typically start with just a video call. We want to understand their current process, how many lines they have, type of volume that they do, how many colors they run, and some of the challenges that they face. The big hook that we have is that we guarantee a 10% powder savings. I think our minimum is 16% for any of our clients. We start with that as the hook, but really a lot of people are not just trying to save powder. They have sometimes quality issues, sometimes it's uptime or rework issues that they're dealing with, or very specific parts that are problems, and they're trying to fix that. It's a bonus almost to get the powder savings as well. So we start off with just understanding really what the problems are and how many lines they have, what the configuration is. And right there, we actually give them a price. Everything's super upfront. We say, this is what it's going to cost you in order to implement this on your line. And then it's a no obligation demo. So we come out, we go and we do the demonstration. And if that demonstration is successful and we're able to prove the 10%, because by the time we leave, you will see the 10% savings. We can calculate it right there through the way that we work. So So if you do that, then you sign up for a year-long program, and it's an annual subscription where we come out and do service and train your team to keep the line optimized as well.
I think that 10% thing is something that I know with me in spraying powder, that's something that the more we spray, the more that's going to catch my eye. Can you talk about maybe how your system works to dial in their booth, their guns, everything, so that they are seeing that? Like, how does it all work? You're going to come into the shop. What's your demo look like? What's a demo day look like? How long does it take? Is it going to impact their productivity that day? All that kind of stuff.
Great. Marlon, you want to take it? Or?
So the demo works always in the same way. So we have our software, which basically gives us the structure for the demo, but also the service visits, which is basically the same. So what we always do, we start off with a benchmark, meaning we're looking at the process, we're taking measurements in the process to understand what is the current quality of the coating, especially with the focus on what is the distribution of the thickness values. So if we have any pieces we are coating, there are always going to be thicker areas, thinner areas. So we want to take measurements and understand where do we have thick coatings, where thinner coatings. And that just gives us the benchmark. Where are we starting at? From that point on, we then move to the actual optimization. So we're going to look at the output of the guns. We're going to look at how the guns are spraying. So actually, how does the spray pattern look like for this given gun and so on. And we dial that all into the software, which then, based on our technology, will start to calculate what improvements can be made to the process. The whole process takes us probably about 2 hours. We're going to be running around in the facility, taking those measurements and so on. But actual downtime of the process would probably be 15 minutes. So process production can keep on mostly just for these 15 minutes where we actually need to go into the booth to take measurements. And that also then means after these 2 hours, you will see your process before and after and can directly compare what has improved since the morning when we came in. Did I forget something, Link?
No, that's the demo. That's pretty much the demo. It's pretty efficient. It's really 15 minutes of downtime on the line. And that's really only for the demo and onboarding, because particularly when you have lots of powders, we need to actually calibrate the different powder groups or the different major powders that you have. But then after that's dialed in, on the monthly visits, we don't have to go back on the line anymore. We can just integrate it right into your standard downtime. If it's during your break or before a shift starts, we can really dial it in. So there's really no downtime after that first demo and onboarding. And I would also say one of the things that we find just in the demo process is that a lot of our customers start thinking everything's fine. And the 2 hours ends up being, we found out that one gun isn't spraying correctly, or there's problems with the pump. And so we actually fix all those underlying issues, and then we're able to actually do the optimization. Once you fix it, and then once you have a continuous process for fixing it, we're then really able to just keep dialing in those savings for the client.
And that was kind of where my mind was going as an applicator and selling equipment and working with automated systems. Is a lot of times you go in there and you've got your shops that are very good with their maintenance, but then you have some shops that are a little bit slacking on it. So you may have worn out inserts or tips or electrodes and all that. So when you go in and you do your baseline, everything is as it is, I assume. Mm-hmm. And then you find the problems, as you said, with maybe a pump's not working or a gun's not optimized right, and you get all that fixed. What's the maintenance on that, if you will? Because obviously as we're spraying, we're wearing out stuff. It just constantly happens. But not every gun's going to wear at the same rate and all that stuff. So how do you guys account for like all the crazy amount of variables that just happen with powder coating?
So that is one of the strong points of the technology, which really makes all of that very easy. We are not adapting the hardware you have, your line, to fit to the software. It's the other way around. The software takes whatever you have and improves that. So if there are worn inserts and so on, they will wear. That's just the nature of it. The software will just follow along that wear and tear and keep optimizing it until it really tells you that insert needs to be changed. There is nothing more I can optimize here. Change insert on gun 3 and we can keep on optimizing. So it really adapts to all this wear and tear to always figure out in that moment what are your best settings given the hardware you have, until it reaches the point that it can't optimize anymore because there needs to be something fixed.
So it's working with all brands then?
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's Gema, Electron, Parker Ionics, anything that works for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to actually add on to what Marlon is saying is that because all of these updates are recorded, so every time you do a fine tune or we do a service, we actually record when you're changing the nozzles, when you're changing the tips. This is part of the AI, is actually to able to add in the ability for us to almost give you predictive maintenance when you should be changing. So you can keep up with your PM schedules or optimize those PM schedules so that you have less and less of these problems happening over time.
So I'd assume some of the calculation of saving money is just making sure your equipment's up and running and it's maintained properly.
In the way that we talk about powder savings, it actually doesn't even include it.
Oh, okay. That's kind of an extra bonus.
We're talking, we're talking just powder. And actually, when we talk about powder, a lot of prospects, when they first hear about it, they say, oh, well, we have a reclaim system.
Right.
And the thing is that we're not talking about what you're overspraying. That's not that. We're talking about powder that you put onto a part and then is cured and shipped that you're never going to recover again. The reclaim powder, we don't calculate. The rework, the savings from rejects, we don't calculate as well, or even the maintenance. We just try to make it really crystal clear and simple so that we want the value prop to be easy. We want it to be almost no-brainer for people to just say, okay, we can run with this.
Right. We've talked off camera, obviously, at FabTech and stuff. And to optimize the amount that's transferring to the part, what the company is doing basically is you're making sure that whatever their spec is for mills, that's what's hitting every inch of that part, correct? Do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Correct. Yeah. So the technology really focuses on getting your thickness values everywhere the same or as close to as possible. Because if you imagine it from the other way around, let's say there is one gun which sprays significantly less, there is going to be a certain area which this gun is covering where there is going to be maybe half the amount of powder. Now your quality control or your operator, whoever checks the actual thickness, will go over the part. You will find a certain area which is too low, so he will dial up the powder amount, generally for all the guns. So now you're going to have that certain area, you lift it up, that one is at minimum, but now your rest is double the spec. And this is really the area where we want to improve that. Say, if you can constantly keep all your guns spraying as they should, keep all the other settings as they should, you're going to have a much narrower window of thickness values you find over the part. And then you can keep that quite close to the actual minimum where you need to be with a safe margin.
I don't know who you're working with per se, but I'm sure you've done some pretty big operations where they're working with like tier one manufacturing, like think of your John Deere's and your Cats and stuff like that. Does something like this, I would assume, without having experience, that it would help out a company like that that's trying to meet those minimum requirements that some of those very big manufacturers have? If they're missing their mark on quality as far as film thickness and that sort of thing, do you have any relative experience where you can share a story with us or anything where you've gone in and that's been an issue and then they've gotten their parts back up to quality?
I would say that almost every case is this way. When I say not necessarily they thought it was bad quality or good, but really the story has always been, even if they thought they were getting good quality, we were able to come in and actually make it even better. So I was mentioning the 16%. I mean, we've been into places that have former booth supplier, like lead technician or lead operators or lead engineers who have great maintenance, and even them 16% minimum improvement on their lines. So if I thought about very specific issues, and I think one of the first demos that we had, we thought we were just going in and actually trying to save them powder. But what it really was, again, there were a lot of these underlying issues that they had not addressed. And when we started to just strip away all the, let's just stop running and stop trying to run the same parts through the line 3 times. Let's just stop. We're going to take 15, 20 minutes, really understand how your booth is actually spraying, and then optimize those settings. We were able to take, I think we saved them about 25% in powder, but the bigger part of it was not the powder, because they were willing to just put more and more powder on. It was really about just the inefficiency that they were having. I mean, we have global projects with furniture manufacturers, with appliance companies. So some of these big, like you might say, tier one suppliers, but also for job coders, they go through the same thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. People who have never heard of you, obviously I have, but with the Blueprint OS system that you guys have, and I was kind of watching a video on your website, it's kind of showing, I don't know what it's called, but the gradient computer image of the scan. Can you talk about how you guys are looking at parts to determine the efficiency of the coating and what your system does?
So what we really look at, that's part of that benchmark, is we take thickness measurements, because that's really what we're all focusing on, is the thickness, because that gives us the real value of how much powder is where on that part. Then is cured and shipped. So already during the benchmark, we are analyzing many points over the substrates as they're coming out to see what is the current range. And then with the different steps, so what you're probably referring to is the part of the blueprint which optimizes the reciprocating motion, where we get a visual image or simulation basically of how the guns are moving. We know by that point already how each gun is spraying. We can calculate how much powder is getting where. That's when we get this colorful image showing us, okay, in that area we get more powder, so we're probably expecting higher thicknesses there. We're going to see some valleys in that range. And then we also get what are the adjustments to make that we don't see these peaks and valleys anymore, but bring it all closer together.
That's exactly what I was kind of talking about, because you see that image of before and it's like heavy in the middle and light on the top and bottom, and then you guys are getting it so it's more uniform and throughout. I'm a visual guy personally, so I like to see that. I like to go, okay, here's where we were and this is where we are now. And so I think a lot of people in the industry, they want to see, it's hard to see, look at a piece that's powder coated and know where it's heavy and it's not. I mean, yeah, there are telltale signs, but you don't really know where you're at mills anywhere. So seeing that thermal image or whatever, but seeing that visually, it's like, okay, well, that's kind of cool to actually know what's going on with it.
It looks like a thermal image, but I guess you call it a thickness distribution image. I don't know. I'm sure there's a better technical term for it. But yeah, I do know that it's actually very interesting, because when we first started, we used to do big presentations, and now we just go right into the software and just say, okay, tell us what your issues are. Let's just show you how this thing works. We're going to tell you the price. If it makes sense to you, we guarantee it, we go. But I can tell you that a lot of people, when they saw the digital twin or the simulation and could finally clearly understand, like see a real representation of the problems that they were having and why, it just gave them so much more clarity about how the process really works. So whether the managers on the line or the line operators or even the CEOs, being able to see that really helped them get a better understanding.
Well, and I know with my side of the sales category, when we're talking to the owners of these businesses, one of the big things we always get asked, especially when we're trying to sell like a reclaim or automation system, is what's the ROI? So I'm sure you guys have heard that plenty. Do you guys have a standardized ROI on the system? Obviously, you're guaranteeing 10%. We don't know the cost of it. I'm sure it fluctuates based on the amount of equipment they have and all that kind of stuff. But do you have like a general idea of ROI for the customer?
Yeah, it's somewhere around 7 to 10 days.
Oh, okay. It's a subscription service, correct? Is that like a monthly type of renewal?
Right. You sign up monthly, but the way we've structured the savings, and because, again, you're immediately going to see the savings when we leave, we've structured the pricing in such a way that within 10 days, you get your monthly subscription fee back. And then every month, you're just adding on to the savings that you have. So it's a maximum 7 to 10 days. Yes. But for people who are saving 25, 30%, those people, it's obviously much shorter.
It's much quicker. Yeah.
Yep.
Another thing, just being in the field and when we're demoing guns and we're actually working with the people in the department that are hands-on, the end users per se, what kind of interaction do they have with your system? How does it affect their day-to-day?
Yeah. So we almost sell to 3 levels of people. So the business owner, he or she looks at the numbers and says, okay, great. Like if you can make this happen, fantastic. But then there's how do you actually implement this into our daily system? And so this has been the evolution of the product. So now we have a module that's specifically built for the line operators. It doesn't integrate into the PLC on their line, but it can sit right side by side, either on a computer or on a tablet that would just sit right there on the line, where then they can actually just input the numbers and it will tell them exactly what settings they need to put into the line in order to get optimal coding. So we've tried to make the user experience super easy for the line operator and for the engineer. There's a back end that the engineer can see as well, so they can get more graphs and interesting information to be able to look at more of the techie side. But we also just try to keep it super simple for the line operator, because again, we don't want it to interfere with their daily work. I would say one of the things that we found is that it just actually helps people create a little bit more structure, because usually when something goes wrong, the person on first shift might have one process for handling the problem. Person on third shift might have another one, or the weekends might have another. And now we take that art out of it. Like they're all going to use the same process in order to troubleshoot, get back to optimal. And so everyone uses the same process and is getting trained the same way.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. So you're saying like air settings, KV settings, UA, it's giving you all that data?
Yeah. So we have a new module that's actually now giving you KV and airflow as well. Usually we leave them alone, but there are certain pieces or certain configurations where you actually need to adjust them. And so we have, again, a new module that actually gives you all that information as well, but it gives you all your proper settings for your line speed that you need to run. And then there's actually a feedback loop, because we work with CoatMaster and the CoatMaster Flex, where you can take a measurement right after it's coded while it's uncured, and then feed that information back into the software, and that will then relate thickness to your settings. settings. It'll tell you exactly what settings to change based on the thickness output that you're getting.
Yeah. So whereas with my small system, I wait for them to come out of the oven and then I have an oven full of parts that are messed up. Now you're fixing it on that very first part.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty slick. So for end users, it doesn't really affect their day-to-day at all, is basically what I'm hearing.
Maybe to explain a bit the process or how our customers interact with us. So in general, we aim for a monthly service visit where a technician comes by, runs the full process, again, which takes about 2 hours, 15 minutes downtime, to really make sure every month it is brought back to optimal settings. And then between those visits is what you're referring to, what is the day-to-day. There should be what we call the fine-tune, which is something the line operator does himself. It will take him about 15 to 20 minutes a week, where he needs to do certain checks on the line. So the software guides him exactly through, you need to do A, B, and C. Give me the measurement values you got from that to keep it within those service visits as close to the optimal as possible. Then a month later, the technician comes again, brings it to the absolute optimum. Then we're going to have the zigzag for the week where it drops a bit, gets good again, drops a bit, gets very good again, and then comes the next visit.
Yeah, which still is very minimum if you're only spending about 15, 20 minutes a week. And you think about if that's saving you on rework, I know in my shop, just 10 feet of rework can ruin a day, in my opinion. I mean, to rework any of those parts, we strip most of ours, or you got to pre-sand them or prep them again and then get them reloaded and all that sort of thing. It's just a headache. So I can't see anyone arguing with just 15 minutes a week to keep it optimized to prevent all that. So is there anything that you guys wanted to mention? I think we've kind of got a good overall general view. I know we're going to link all of your guys' info down below if companies want to reach out and discuss this with you. You guys do a Zoom demo type of thing. Is that how it usually starts?
Yes. So it just starts with a video call. We'll probably send them a little questionnaire beforehand so we get some basic information. And then during that video call, like I said, we go through more details of the problems that they're dealing with. And then we are able to give them pricing and everything right on the phone, and then schedule in the demo from there. We try to make it as streamlined as possible.
Yep. Quick demo. And then if they're ready to go, I assume you get it on the schedule. And like you said, it's maybe a half day or to a day on site and they're up and running.
Yeah, I would say so. Some of our larger clients where they have 7 or 8 lines at their facility, well, we usually say we spend about a half a day per line. So we just schedule that in when we do the demo. We can, from the demo, we benchmark and then we can onboard them immediately. When we leave, the first service is already done. We have a new one coming on in February. They have, I believe it's 8 lines.
I was thinking much smaller than that. I was thinking like a line or two. That still kind of baffles me to think that there's people out there with 8 lines running.
Yeah, but if you have 1 or 2 lines, again, we're there. We just call it the day.
Yeah.
We're there for the day.
Well, that's some big business when you're starting to get 3, 4 plus lines going. So, to me, it's very intriguing. I know with my side with sales with Electron, we definitely mention you guys when we're talking with customers when we're out in the field, and there's a lot of interest. So I think just spreading the word about you guys a little bit more, getting it out there because it's so new to the US, in my opinion, I think it's a great thing. And I know we've talked about doing some more collaborations together and kind of going through a demo and seeing how that looks, and maybe joining you on site one time to film something, because that'd be really neat to see too. So anything else you guys want to add?
First, Marlon, is there anything in particular you want to add? Okay.
He's good.
It's fine. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having us on.
Oh, absolutely.
Number one. I mean, I really very much appreciate it. The fact that your channel seems like really the place to go for powder coaters. We're like, hey, this is really cool that these even exist and that it actually gets really good interaction. Like, so we're really excited to be here. Thank you for that. And definitely looking forward to collaboration, whether it's through showing demos here online, but we'd love to have you come out to a client as well. It's always an adventure when we go, but it's always fun. Like, we always learn something. And I feel like every time we just keep making it better and better for the users and for our clients. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoy it. Like, that's the thing with sales that I like the most in the powder coating industry, is just going and visiting customers, seeing how they run, how they're organized. It's actually helped me in my own business quite a bit, just peeking in on other businesses and seeing, just the efficiencies and the structures that they have in place. So I definitely see a big future for CoatingAI here in the US, and excited to work with you guys a little bit on it. Thank you both for spending a little bit of time with us. Check out the notes down below for all the viewers. We'll get Link and Marlon's information down there along with their website website, and feel free to hit them up if you guys have any questions. Again, it has to be an automated system, correct? I just want to make sure
Has to
that's
be
clear.
automated. Yes.
Yep,
Correct.
Yep. So maybe tomorrow in his spare time, you'll start working on optimizing us batch users.
Difficult to optimize the hand movement.
We'll get to like the less robots first, like the one-off robots, and then we'll worry about trying to train every human to act the same way no matter what part comes through. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you joining me again. Check out the links again down below. This is going to be a very interesting business to keep track with. Check them out on LinkedIn too and follow along with their stories. So until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.
Bye.